Hey there, welcome back to the channel. My name is Andrew Clarke, and you might notice the space that I'm in today is a little bit different. It might even sound a little bit different. I need to do some room treatment in here. But I moved this past week, which is why there was no video last week. But here we are, back to our regularly scheduled lessons. And today I just want to talk a little bit about the pentatonic scale and just kind of a new way to look at the pentatonic scale. Now, typically when we think of the pentatonic scale as guitar players, the way that we use it, it is very much a box that travels vertically. So what I mean by that is it goes up or down the strings, 2 notes at a time, and that's typically always the shape that we use. And if you've spent some time kind of getting past the basics of the pentatonic scale, then you would also know that there are a bunch of attached pentatonic scale shapes all the way up and down the fretboard. There are 5 in total, and they are all connected. What I want to do today is just take a slightly different look at the pentatonic scale. So rather than looking at it completely vertically in these columns, we're just going to kind of take it and we're going to spread it a little bit horizontally into this really cool kind of usable shape. Now, I am definitely not the first teacher on the internet to show this, but this is something that I use a ton in my playing. And what I want to do here is just show you how you can use that slightly altered shape to tie it into things like chord roadmaps, which I've talked about in other videos, and also things like the home bass as well. Okay, so just a tiny bit of a recap. What is the pentatonic scale? Basically, all we're doing for the pentatonic scale is we are taking the regular 7-note major or minor scale, and we're just removing 2 notes to turn it into a pentatonic scale. So the idea is you remove the 4th and the 7th notes from a major scale, and when you remove those, you end up with just 5 notes instead of the 7, and that becomes a pentatonic scale. Now, depending on which note you start on in that pentatonic scale, you start on the first one, or you start on the 6th one, that's what makes it major or minor pentatonic. So C major pentatonic is the same as A minor pentatonic, but that theory doesn't really matter here. You can learn about that in other videos of mine. But basically all you're doing is whenever you play the pentatonic scale, you're just playing those 5 notes. So typically they're going in order, up or down. It doesn't really matter which one you start on as long as you are in the correct key. So if you're in the key of C major, you're playing something in C major. If you're playing starting on a G note or starting on an F note, it doesn't matter as long as all the notes are from the key of C major and you're playing that correct pentatonic scale. And typically all this stuff is shown in the context of blues, which I find very restricting. I'm more of a pop, contemporary, rock, country, soul, that type of music kind of player. And this stuff applies perfectly to that and is something that you can use over basically any diatonic chord progression. Okay, so first up, what I'm going to show you is basically how the pentatonic scale works. So if we were to play our regular minor pentatonic scale, let's say, so it doesn't matter, like I said, major or minor, it doesn't matter, but this pentatonic scale shape right here. Right, so that's an A minor pentatonic. If I were to start on this note here, then it would be C major pentatonic, but ultimately they're the exact same scale. It doesn't really matter, it's just whichever note you start on. They're used the exact same way, whether you're playing in A minor or in C major. Now, next to that shape, again, if you've learned more about pentatonics, you would know this, there is another pentatonic scale shape behind it that's attached on this side, and then there's one above it that's attached on this side. So you would have this one, basic one, then below it you'd have this. And all it's doing is it's starting that scale on a different note, but it still is A minor or C major pentatonic. And then above, and once again, that is both the C major or the A minor pentatonic. And those totally work over any chord progression that is in the key of C major or the key of A minor. Both of them are relative keys, so they share all the same chords. Now, what we're gonna do to make this slightly different is instead of going 2 notes on each string, so where we would climb up like this, we're actually gonna start back here and we're gonna go 2 notes, so like this. And then what we're gonna do is we're gonna slide up. So it's gonna go. And then you would continue the shape. Slide up again. And then this last one, you have to make a small adjustment, but it looks like this. And basically what you would have here is 3 individual pentatonic scales. So 3 5-note scales. In this case, they are starting on a G note. So even though we're in the key of A minor or C major, G is one of those notes. Like I said, it really doesn't matter because you're not necessarily always going to be playing it in order anyway. You're just going to be using these notes to come up with your own things. But if we start on this G note, we go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, right? And then next up, we go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So we've completed now 2 octaves of the same scale. And then we go again, 4, 5. And again, we've completed 3 octaves of the exact same scale. So if I were to say the notes kind of out loud, we would have G, A, C, D, E. Then we'd have G, A, C, D, E. And then we would have G, A, C, D, E. And the idea here is not to constrain you to just this one pathway between these 3 separate positions, right? The whole point is to just get you moving. Now, I'll still use this exact line, this exact run up, and then just make tiny alterations to make it sound a little bit more musical here and there, rather than just running up or going down the scale. But the idea is, instead of you feeling like everything is very positional, so okay, I'm down here playing this pentatonic scale, now I gotta make a shift to this one. Oh, I want to play in the next one. Well, I'm going to shift my whole hand, and there's kind of no fluidity between them. This is just going to kind of give you, again, that pathway between the 3 different shapes. And one of the most important parts of making this fluid is using a slide. Sliding is very easy. It's going to take a little bit of time to kind of get the dexterity and kind of get it figured out, but it is very easy. And what I want you to do is to go. So that would be your first one. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then you can carry on. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And it's up to you if you want to do that slide without picking, or you want to do it, pick all of them. But the idea is to just get a smooth transition between them. So that shape played all together would look something like this. Now, all I want you to do at this point is practice going up and down that one shape. Don't try and do anything fancy right now. Just keep it super simple. Go up through that entire run. So playing the 3 octaves of the pentatonic scale like that, and then go back down and up and down and up and down. And once that's really committed to muscle memory, that's when you can really start making those alterations to this. Now, the main thing that I want you to take away from this lesson is not so much the shape that we just learned. Obviously, that's important, being able to play between those. That's like the practical application. But the actual concept, the greater idea, the thing that goes a lot further than just this one shape, is the idea that the pentatonic scale is not just this box, this 2-note per string box that's very restricting, that sounds very much like a scale. The guitar is a very cool instrument because of the way that it is tuned. So yes, you can play a lot of scales going up the strings vertically, but you can also play a lot of scales horizontally as well. And what this does is it leads to a kind of a more vocal, so a lot more voice-like way of playing scales or melodies. And this is something I really want to get into in a future lesson, which is to learn how to play horizontally instead of vertically in general. But this is just to serve kind of as an intro to that idea. So if I were to play the pentatonic scale like how we were, right? Well, I could also just play it up one string. It's the exact same scale. And when you start to realize that there is both a vertical and a horizontal way to play things, not only is it going to offer you a whole bunch more connections and help you understand the fretboard, it's also going to help you to play things that are more melodic and are going to sound less scale-like. So if this concept does interest you, please make sure you leave a comment below and tell me that you want to see that video, because I will prioritize it if it is something you guys want to see. So again, playing horizontally instead of vertically. This is something that is especially important to slide players. So even though I'm a terrible slide player, one of my favorite players, Derek Trucks, a lot of stuff he does is on one string, going up and down one string, because again, playing horizontally, you're gonna get a much more vocal-like sound. Now, the very last few things that I wanted to cover in this video are just how you can tie this into other concepts that I've taught on this channel. So 2 of those being very important, which are the chord roadmaps, and then also the home bass. If you are watching closely, you probably already know how these tie in, but I just kind of want to go through a quick explanation. So we end up with this very simple minor pentatonic scale right here. So this is in the key of C major or A minor. We have this shape below it. We're tying it all together, right? Well, right there is our home base. So one of our home bases, right there is our 6 chord. Right there is our 5 chord. All the way down is our 4 chord. And then that would mean this one up here is our 1 chord. So this is the 2nd chord roadmap. So in the key of C major, we have our 1, our 2, and our 3. And then we have our 4, our 5, our 6, and our 7. And all of this is sitting right over top of that position of the pentatonic scale. And when we play through the entire run, we're just traveling through that roadmap. Now, if you've learned how to extend your roadmaps a little bit, you would know, obviously that being your 1, this being your 6, you can keep going and you're gonna have another 1 up there, right? And another 4 up here, and then a 5 and a 6. Moving into the first roadmap, the very first roadmap that I ever taught on my channel, which is the exact same chords. We're just doing it based on the low E string being the 1. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then 7 up here. And for that one, these shapes would sit right below. So right here, well, our 1 is right there. We have this here, but we are traveling up into that other roadmap, right? So you can see, depending on which roadmap you want to use, you can still attach these shapes right onto it. So roadmap 2 right here, that one's going to sit just kind of behind / over top of that pentatonic scale shape. And then the other roadmap, roadmap 1, is going to sit a little bit above, but it does also line up with those last few higher notes. And what this means is as you travel through these positions, not only are there notes that you have access to with those scales, but also right over top, you're always going to be able to find all the most important chords from that key. And then as far as the home base goes, the whole idea there is basically that we're just going to build every single chord and scale around this one basic pentatonic scale shape. Well, you know the scale shape, and we've already built out a couple of the pentatonic shapes right next to it, butted right up against here, and we're traveling between them without any issue. And then on top of that, we've got a roadmap that's sitting right basically over top, but a little bit below our home base right there. And then we've got another roadmap right above our home base right there. And then if you wanted to get into the cage stuff, all of those shapes, again, will fit around the whole home base as well. So the idea is you have a whole bunch of different ways as you, obviously this is something you work your way up to access every single chord, and again, every single scale, and in every single position. You're learning how to move through those positions, and obviously there's more as you continue, but this will give you nearly an infinite amount to work with. Now, if you wanted to transpose this into different keys, nothing would change. Wherever your pentatonic scale would be, let's say we wanted to move it up to E flat major or C minor. C minor here, E flat major there. If we were in this key, our pentatonic scale would look like this. Well, the shape of the run does not change. And that means we've got our chord roadmaps right in the exact same spot, butted up right against that scale shape. And when you're practicing this new kind of more horizontal way of playing, I'd encourage you to try different keys. Because the great thing about the guitar in general is that nothing ever changes whenever you are changing keys. So every single shape is always going to remain the same. There's no alterations. All you're doing is moving it up or down the fretboard. Okay, so that's all I wanted to cover in this video. I know it was a little bit of a quicker one, but this is something that I use all the time in my playing. That specific run I found very, very useful. So just to kind of recap, the main thing that I want you to take away from this video is just learning how to look at scales a little bit more horizontally. So obviously we've only moved one note horizontally. The rest is still vertical. So we're going 1, 2, 3, 3, 4, and then moving up on that 5th note. But again, the concept is just to start thinking that scales aren't always gonna lock you into that one position. As far as practicing what we've talked about here, you can just really work on that run. So going up and then going back down, incorporating slides if you can to really get it to feel and sound very smooth. And then when you feel comfortable in the key of C major / A minor, move it around into different keys. It doesn't really matter which one, or throw it into your improvisation if you're already at that point. Try using it when you're improvising to help you kind of move between some of those pentatonic positions. And finally, if you guys want me to do a more in-depth video on playing horizontally and the importance of that, please make sure you leave a comment below, just letting me know that that's something you guys want to see, and I will get that video done for you. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up, and please also consider subscribing to the channel here on YouTube. I release a guitar video just like this one every single week. Now, with all that said, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one.